Welcome to From Caving In to Crushing It, the podcast for those who find themselves immersed in adversity and choose to write their story instead of having others write it for them. I'm Drew Durrani, and I'm your host.
Let's see.
John Weiman, awesome to see you, my friend.
Great to see you, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm looking forward to this, man, because with my show, it's like I always talk about authenticity, and I do that. I don't edit this thing. It's everything's on the table.
Good.
Like whatever people want to talk about, because the whole idea behind what I want is I want people to be inspired by the guest and to know that with their current hardships, they're not on an island all by themselves, and there are people out there who've gone through stuff, and there's always people who want to help you and mentor you. So to not think you're alone, and then you can reach out for help. And another thing, when we're kids, John, and I'm sure this happened to you, weren't you taught that life is linear, that if you do all the right things, John, you do A plus B plus C plus D, and that can be go to school, college, get married, have kids, everything's going to fall into place and you'll be all set.
Absolutely.
Right?
I was supposed to go to Princeton. Oh,
See?
yeah.
See?
Yeah.
So that wasn't true, because everybody is just teaching us what they learned, from their parents and their parents, and they don't really interject like what happened to them really. So we grow up thinking it's a straight line, and then something steps in between those letters of A plus B, and we have to make a decision, right?
Mhm.
And we can decide. A lot of us don't realize we have a choice. We can choose to retreat and give up, or we can choose to move forward and become stronger for our adversities as opposed to despite them. That's why I wanted you on. And I know you've gone through a lot in your life, and I know you're willing to share.
Sure.
So, and I'm sure there's a few of these defining moments we talk about, but reach back wherever you want to go and give the audience one or two of these defining moments, whether it was a tap on the shoulder or a 2x4 upside the head that woke you up and said, "Hey, John, better way to live, dude. You better pay attention. Let's do something different."
Okay. Well, I'll start with the 2x4.
All right.
16 years ago, I walked into St. Joe's Hospital here with stomach pain. And after 4 hours of testing, the doctor finally came in and said, "All right, here's the deal. You're in complete liver failure. You keep doing what you're doing, you'll be dead in 2 months."
Oh my gosh.
That's a 2x4.
That's a 2x4.
Yeah. And I said, okay, I'll stop. And I stopped immediately. Stopped drinking immediately. I didn't do AA. I didn't do anything like that. In my field, one of my mentors told me, and it's so true, "John, you got to realize it's 6 months before they stop lying." And a lie I recently admitted to myself recently was it was so easy for me to stop, because I thought, well, I don't want to die. Of course I stopped drinking. Of course I did. I don't want to die. Well, the truth was that I walk every morning. I thought dying would hurt.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
didn't want the pain of dying. I saw that guy in the bed, and I was like, oh, no way. I don't want that.
Okay.
So it was really easy for me to, just say, oh, well, I didn't want to die. Of course, come on, Drew, I didn't want to die. So I stopped drinking. It was easy. The truth was, it was about, pain. And, through my journey, waited 12 years for a liver transplant.
Wow.
Again, died 4 times, 2 strokes.
Oof.
One, I was on life support for 5 days. Seizures where I flatlined, 4,000 pounds of fluid drained from my body.
God.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
And I expected you to say that, and tell us why you would do it again in a heartbeat.
I began to appreciate life. Really, I stopped to take the time to really look at what it'd be like if you asked me when I was sick, "Hey, John, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?" I'd say, "Drew, man, I'm trying to make it to tomorrow." And I began to just really appreciate tomorrow. And and I take the time every morning. We live on the water, and I sit out and I just watch nature for like 2 hours.
Wow.
And I never noticed a butterfly before. It was
Yeah.
so cool to
It,
see it.
it is amazing because it's those things like that we take for granted when we're just focusing on really going through autopilot, just trying to, whether it's the business, making money, getting all the things we want in life, and we don't realize those little things. 2 hours in nature every morning. That is a habit you built that I'm sure has helped you stay in the present moment and not be too consumed with other things, either the past or what's on the horizon, right?
Absolutely. It's just really taking the time to be grateful
Yeah, yeah.
for everything. And, in my wait for 12 years for a transplant, oh, by the way, they found cancer
While when they found
when they took out my liver.
when they
Yeah, they
took
found
out
cancer.
not when they diagnosed you, you're talking
No.
about 12 years later, then they take
Yeah.
out. Oh my gosh. So that was like, okay, thank you for removing it and putting a new liver in, but thanks for that news. How'd you handle that news?
Oh, well, they told me we think we
Oh,
got it all.
oh,
We think we do. We're
oh,
not sure, but we think we do. So we're going to have to test you every 3 months for
okay.
5 years.
Oh boy, okay.
And I'm in year 3 now. No signs.
Clean
So
and all that. That's awesome.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
but
Awesome.
it's again, and I'd say the tap on the shoulder one
Yeah, yeah.
was
When was that?
that was probably about a year after I got sick. People kept telling me to have the positive perspective. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Okay.
Are you serious? Like in that year, I saw 3 people die.
Wait,
I've
from
seen
what you had
from
or,
what
or
I had
from
from
what
cirrhosis.
oh my gosh. Okay.
And total, I saw 14 people die. I'm the only one alive.
Oh my gosh.
And somebody's telling me, be positive, be positive. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You don't know what you're talking about. And
Right. Right.
I slowly bought in with that tap on the shoulder.
Okay.
And about a year later, after I started to buy in, I got healthier. I was still sick, obviously,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
my even my blood work improved.
It's unbelievable how there's that causation. It's really a causation too, not really a correlation. They say. Okay, so the
Yeah,
blood
and
work started to improve, and that probably in turn even got you to be more positive because you're like, oh shoot, this
yes,
positive stuff's working. Let me make it work faster. I'm going to be even more positive.
yeah. I mean, I literally thought, I remember that defining moment. I'm like, wow, I've had a positive attitude. Am I healthier because I have a positive attitude, or do I have a positive attitude because I'm healthier?
Right.
I don't
It
care.
didn't matter. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care.
Chicken or the
I
egg doesn't
just
matter.
know it
Yep.
worked. And
Yep.
I say today, being diagnosed with cirrhosis is one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Unbelievable.
Everything good in my life happened after I was
After
given 2 months
after
to live.
that. Well, let's talk about that. So when you were diagnosed, we know now that you are in marriage counseling. You're a marriage
Mm-hmm.
counselor. Were you
Yeah.
a marriage counselor at the time you were diagnosed?
No.
All right. This is I want to hear what you were doing, and what your mindset was in that professional field, and then how this whole transition when, 2x4, tap on the shoulder, then you're in another
Okay.
field.
Okay. I'm remarried. I was originally married for 14 years. While right at the beginning of my marriage, I was in this field working with one of the best in the world,
Mhm.
a guy by the name of Dr. James Masterson. And that linear path,
Yeah.
I was going to get my PhD and working at the Masterson Institute and retired at 50.
And what was the industry at the Master
It
Institute?
was, yeah, I worked in a psych hospital.
Oh,
I was
okay.
a recreational therapist.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So there's the straight line linear. You're on your way to get the PhD, and then some stuff happened. Okay.
Yeah, marriage started a family, and it was, hey, we have to go and get a real job, so to speak. Hospital didn't pay well. And so I
Uh,
left the field.
oh boy. Okay.
And I could go into the caving of that. It was basically don't be like your dad.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So
Yeah. The shame and guilt part
oh
kind of
well,
stuff.
that happens when your father marries the secretary and leaves your mother
Yeah,
basically homeless.
that will
Yeah.
do it. Oh my gosh. Geez, that's
So
some trauma to deal with. Okay. All right.
denial is
So
a powerful weapon.
yes, absolutely is. Okay.
So we left the field, moved to Maryland. I went to work for a marketing company that basically sells, well, I'd like to say shit with your name on it, t-shirts, pens,
Got it. Got it.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of money in that. And
Yes. Yes.
in the troubles in my marriage, I decided to go out on my own. The
Okay.
critical business mistake I made was one customer accounted for 90% of my business.
Oh boy. Okay. All right.
And they moved away,
Yeah.
and talk about caving in.
Yeah.
My mom also during that time, she died, and I had a close friend die,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I caving in is putting it nicely.
Oh boy. And you were
Um,
still with the first wife at this time?
no, divorce
No.
happened during
So,
that time.
so divorce also happened during that time. So when it rains, it pours. So
Yeah.
now, okay, so
Uh,
now all of this happened,
mm-hmm.
and you found yourself in financial relationship. I'm sure some spiritual downs and
Absolutely.
okay, tell me about that.
Absolutely.
Oh, geez.
And talk about, and I recently came to terms with this and realized this, how history repeats itself.
Yeah.
Well, in my parents' divorce,
Hmm.
none of my friends, no one knew for 5 years. Guess what I did with my ex? We kept it a secret for five
The
years.
same thing. So
Repeated the same mistake.
wow.
Yeah. So, and that took a lot, a toll on me.
Well, I mean, I'm
Um,
sure when your parents did, it took a toll on you as a child. You didn't even be able to say, did you know that they were, or they told you and you weren't allowed to
yeah,
say anything. Don't say
I,
anything.
yeah, I couldn't in adolescence. I
God,
realized this again not too long ago. I couldn't like bring a date home to introduce them to my parents.
parents, shoot.
And I couldn't also, because of that, I didn't even know how to go knock on a door and say, I'm here to pick up your daughter.
Yep.
I'd never done that. And,
Yeah. Oh boy.
with the
Yeah.
splitting of my parents, that type of guidance I didn't have because I
Oh,
went to a boarding school.
okay.
So there was never go meet the parents.
Oh boy. So wow. So you didn't have that male role model to kind of walk you those ropes. And
Exactly.
now you recreated history, and at the time you weren't thinking about that.
No, no, I
Yeah.
was clueless to it.
And you had kids at the
Clueless.
time or no?
Two boys. Yeah. Two
How
boys.
did they handle that not being able to say anything?
It was interesting. We didn't talk about it much.
Mm.
I remember one time the town gossip lady,
Oh geez.
after 3 years of separation, went up to my ex with my 11-year-old son and said, I'm so sorry to hear that
Oh,
you and John are separated.
oh God.
And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. We've never been happier, in front of my son.
Oh, wow.
And then she goes home, calls me at my apartment, and says, you have to call her husband and set him straight. And I did that for the benefit of my children, or what I thought was the benefit of my
Yeah.
children. Again, I would say the trauma of my own parents' divorce.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, just, hey, if that's what's needed, we'll do it. And I did that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I was really lost, but I guess to get back to this field,
Yeah.
um, my mother, when I was first in it, she said to me, John, you have a gift.
Mm.
My mom was a therapist. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what
So
are you
she knew.
talking about? And she said, you see people,
Hmm.
you see them. And I didn't understand what she meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I now sit in sessions and they're talking,
You
it's
see him.
literally like me watching a movie and I see the reactions of what they're describing. I wish I could tell you how, but and they're like, and I described it, and they're like, that's exactly what was happening. Um,
Wow.
which I'm
And
very lucky that
now
I.
when you're actually in a session and
Mhm.
the couple is saying what they're saying, are you able to know if they're being their true selves or if they're doing the wearing the mask and all this, you know?
uh, yes, and a lot of times,
Yeah.
again, at that talk about a nice, great, another tappy moment.
Yeah.
John, you got to realize it's 6 months before they stop lying.
Six
And
months. So you mean so that what that meant is 6 months into counseling, they're
yes,
lying for the first 6 months, probably not realizing they're lying. They believe that truth.
correct.
And then the walls
Correct.
start breaking down because they trust you a little more, or they're done with the lying and then they come clean. And then that's when the work starts, I guess.
Yes,
All right.
exactly.
Okay.
It's
All right.
they don't know. It's not like they went to one grocery store when they went to another.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They
Yeah.
they're saying, "Oh, this is what happened. This is what I
Interesting.
really felt." Um,
That's interesting.
so
Yeah. See, my ex-wife and I, we went to a mediator first.
okay.
And then, so we stayed with the mediator. I mean, that's how it was all.
Mhm.
So, yeah, she called us on our stuff like way earlier than the 6 months. You want to drag this out, keep doing what you're doing. And we're like, oh shit. All right. For the kids, we will.
Well, it's interesting. Um, I didn't even have a lawyer.
Okay.
I
Wow.
said, like my parents' divorce in the 70s
Yeah.
was over $500,000 in legal fees in 5 years.
Wow.
And I sat there and I said, don't be like mom and dad. Just, you know what? Let her get a lawyer. And I signed
Interesting.
whatever
Okay.
she wanted. She got the house, she got my retirement. I mean, I basically gave her 3 times the amount of money that the court guidelines said.
Wow.
Uh, I
You just
didn't want
wanted
my
it done?
kids to suffer. Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
want my kids to suffer. I wanted the money to go to them instead of
okay.
lawyers.
Well, how'd you handle it? Because obviously it's now money out of your pocket too. How'd
I
you handle
faced
that?
eviction 38 months in a row.
Yeah, that's how I was thinking that might happen. Okay.
um, and again, I tend to look back at that, look at it positively.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
it gave me the confidence that I can survive
Hmm.
anything. I sold my car to not get evicted.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You
So
yeah, you knew what it was like to be on nearly that rock bottom at
yeah,
that point.
yeah.
All right. So you dug yourself out. So you got the divorce is behind you. You have the now with the liver transplant. How did you meet your second wife? Because that was a cool story, if I remember correctly.
Sherry, well, we met online,
Yeah.
and I literally I didn't have anything to offer anyone,
Yeah.
and I decided I was gonna. I in my childhood, adolescence, when I dated, I did it to be accepted.
Got it. Yeah.
I wasn't authentic in
Hmm.
that way.
Yeah.
I just literally, and very honestly, whoever I dated on some level, without me admitting it, they were my family because
Hmm.
I'm living with my father and his secretary.
Right. Right. Yep. Oh,
Family
geez.
was
Okay.
gone, and I was the
Right.
youngest. So,
Right.
um, you know, I uh, I just look at that period, and I met my wife online, and one of the changes I made was I made the decision. I hate people who are great first dates.
Mm.
Great first dates because they're full of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Uh,
when we met, I decided that I'm going to be the worst first date. And one
right.
of the things she says to me, I'll keep politics out of it, but it was into it. She asked me what political party I was,
Okay.
and she said, because if you're not my party, that's a big red flag.
Okay. Yeah.
And I said, whatever party you are, I'm the opposite.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
And I was just like, look, I'm not gonna do this thing of like faking it. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget, we walked out, and of the place, the Pink Flamingo, and I literally fell to the ground with liver stomach pain. And
At the first, after the first date.
yeah, first date. Yeah, we
Holy
were
jeez.
walking to our
Yeah.
cars,
Yeah.
and um, she was so cool. She was like, I felt so embarrassed, and she's like, it's okay, it's okay. Let's get you to the bench, and I'll go get the car and pick you up. And I'm like, okay, I'm really sorry. And she's like, really, don't worry about it. And she got me to our car. We did the kiss goodnight thing,
Was this
and
before you were diagnosed? Did you know what was happening?
no, this was after I was diagnosed.
After. So okay, so you knew. Okay. And
It's
that's how she
interesting.
found out.
No, no,
Oh,
I told her.
you did?
What I
Okay, okay,
did
okay.
was,
Gotcha.
yeah,
All right.
it's kind of interesting.
Wow. All right.
Um
I
I
like the
saw
authenticity and honesty on the first date. So
oh, I
no
loved it.
joke. No joke. It needs to be
None,
that way. Yeah.
none. I decided, I saw this thing on HBO, not 50, but 21st dates.
Oh,
And this guy went on these dates to really learn about himself and figure out what he wanted. And
yeah.
so I decided to do that.
Okay.
The first date I went on, the woman said, "Oh my God, I'm not divorced. I can't be seen out in public with a guy." I'm like, "Cool." The second date said, "John, I was very upfront about my illness." She goes, "I can't deal with that." The third date, she said it was going well. We went out for coffee, and she said, "But John, you're dying." And I said, "So are you. What's your point?"
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yeah. Love
And
that answer.
the fourth one showed up to lunch, high and drunk. And I was like, "Nope, that's not going to work." And Sherry
Wow.
was the next one, Sherry, and she was so cool. And
I love it.
I'll never forget driving home to my apartment. I called her and I was like, "Hey, I know I seemed like a real jerk, and I just wanted you to know I really appreciate what you did, and I had a really good time." And
Good for you.
she said, I knew you were what you were doing. I knew you were kidding, and I had a lot of fun too." So, but then what happened was, as we started to date, I decided I wanted to go back into this field of psychology, and
Yeah.
we were talking about it. I was like, well, I messed up my marriage, so I want to find out about that. And
Mm.
I found the Gottman Institute, which
Okay.
I am biased, but I think it's the best.
Okay.
And I completed my training.
Good for you.
And after I completed it, Drew, it sucked.
No kidding. So okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't making money. I was making $30,000 a
Wait,
year.
when was this? When it
This was 12 years ago.
12? Wow. Oh, geez. Okay. They really didn't
Yeah.
pay well. My God.
Oh, I took these lousy jobs just to
Just to work.
survive.
Yeah.
And so I take the training and I can't afford an office.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, I can't believe this. I wasted the time and the money I had. And Sherry said to me, I was in my apartment, she was in her house. She said, "Well, why don't you just use my living room?" And I'm like, "What?"
Wow.
And she said, "Yeah, just use my living room." I'm like, "You realize you're going to have people coming to your house that you don't know and they don't like each other? That's crazy." And she said, "That's okay. We'll just put up two doors to make it private for you."
So you
And
knew
I'm
right away
like,
you wanted to do marriage counseling as opposed to like the psych
absolutely.
stuff. Okay, gotcha. All right,
Absolutely.
got
Yeah.
it.
Because
All
I
right,
realized I messed up mine. And
got it. And you wanted to find out. Yeah, okay,
yeah, I
again,
wanted
I
to learn
get
what
it.
makes it work.
I
And
get it. Makes
what
sense.
when
Yeah.
I asked her, I was like, why would you do this?
Mm-hmm.
And she said the number one thing I learned at the Gottman Institute, she said, "You said it was your dream. I want you to have your dream."
That's
And
amazing that you found someone
yeah,
who was
and
willing. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and fast forward 12 years, and now people online say nice things about me.
I love
But
it.
I love that you're talking about authenticity, because my first day of practice, I made a promise to myself that I kept
Good.
today,
Good.
still have it.
Good.
And the promise was, if I think it, I say it. I
Love
don't
it.
care who it is.
Yeah.
I've seen some very high profile people. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, sorry. I thought it. I'm saying it."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's been one. It hasn't been easy, but it's been 100%
Oh,
effective.
yeah. I mean, there's, I always would say, yeah, he doesn't have a filter. She doesn't have a filter. Um, Filters are appropriate at some point, but there are many
Mhm.
times where a filter is not appropriate because then we are not allowing people to really know who we are. And then, then we get the comment, oh, that's out of character of you. And I'll say, well, it's really not. It's always been me. The person you
Yeah,
knew was
yeah.
out of character. It's like, so yeah, I don't want to hear that out of character thing anymore. So
No,
good,
no,
good for
no.
you,
They,
man. Good for
well,
you.
I'll tell you a funny one.
Yeah.
I'm literally actually wearing.
Yeah.
I met with this big Hollywood star
Yeah.
through Zoom,
Yeah.
and he comes on screen, and he's like, he doesn't see me in a suit and tie,
Yeah.
and he says to his wife, "Who the hell is this guy?
This
Who
guy, I
the
love
hell
him.
is he?" And she goes, "I checked him out. He's good. He's good." And and I have to. I used to wear a suit and tie, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not me.
You didn't
No,
feel
I'm not
comfortable
doing.
doing it, just didn't feel
No,
right. Yeah, good. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I tell people again in terms of authenticity, I call it Ed Sheeran it, the singer. Just think
Yep.
out loud.
Yep.
Just think out loud.
I
Say
love
it
it.
that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Well, you end
it's
up
been
surrounding yourself with the people who lift you up rather than knock you down when you are who you are, because they have a choice now. They can either say,
yeah,
screw you, I don't like the way you are,
yeah.
or I'll stay with you. And if they stay and they know who you are, they're gonna be supporters. So I like that. I love that
Like,
approach.
yeah, I can't talk in that, therapist voice of Drew. Are you feeling okay today?
Yeah,
Can't
please
do it.
don't. I don't like that. Don't
I'm
talk.
like, Drew, what's your problem?
Don't use that voice, man. Yeah, really. Oh, I love it. So I would love to be a fly on the wall when you kind of address people's excuses, because I know a lot of excuses are made, in the divorce counseling or whatever.
Mhm, mhm.
I'm sure. Do you call them out on their excuses?
Absolutely. That's one of the things Masterson taught me is you got to confront the client. You got to
Yeah,
confront them.
yeah.
If you hear, like, one of the things I ask in the introduction is for them to define love.
Oh,
And
good.
they say some nonsense like, oh, it's unconditional acceptance, it's always being there, and all that. And then I'll go to the other one and I'll say, okay, you heard his definition. Based on his definition and only what he just said, do you feel he loves you? And the woman would go, yeah, I feel he loves me. I think he loves me. I'm like, no, no, you're here because he's not doing that. He is, he's
Uh,
not unconditionally accepting you. Are you serious?
yeah.
Like, literally,
Well, you
it,
ask them that in the first 6 months because you know they're going to be lying.
I asked him in the first session,
First session. Yep.
first
Yep.
session, and
Yeah.
and I've literally never had two people that
Yeah.
have said yes and yes.
No, I wouldn't think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because and then I say, well, I didn't define it, you did. And guess
Yeah.
what? He said, no, you don't do that. Why can't you live up to your own definition?
Yeah.
So
So, all
it's
right.
a
So, I have a question
fascinating.
for you. So, as
Sure.
a marriage counselor,
Mm-hmm.
right? What would you, how do you consider, how do you, I don't know, measure your success in your field? Is it, I've saved 75% marriages. Some shouldn't be saved. I do. It's like, how do you, I wouldn't know how to determine my success in a field like
Okay.
yours.
Couple ways.
All right.
One, I was floored after transplant.
Yeah.
Um, because they're trying to get the anti-rejection drugs right.
Right.
One day, uh, I'm on the bed crying like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, the nurse's aide comes in and says, John, it's time to sit in the chair. And I said, you take a step in this room, I'll punch you in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, whoa. When the surgeon comes in, and I'm 2.5 hours away. I'm in Philly. I live in Baltimore.
Right.
2.5 hours away. And the surgeon comes in and says, John, we'd like to have you talk to the transplant team psychiatrist. And I'm like, okay, sure, bring him in. I'd love to talk to him. And Marco comes in and says to me, hey, John, first of all, I know who you are. I know what you do for a living, and I know how good you are doing it. I'm like, wow, wow, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
And 2.5 hours away.
Wow.
Um, that was a very proud moment.
That's a good
And
measurement of that. Yep.
yeah, and then the other thing is I encourage you, challenge you, and I'm 100% confident. Go out there and find someone who has more 5-star reviews than me.
Mm.
My reviews are unsolicited.
Oh, okay.
I've never asked for one.
Never asked. Okay.
There is one person who, a colleague of mine, Ingrid Felton. Ingrid has more than I do. And we share. I refer people to her. She
Yeah.
refers them to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just don't feel comfortable
No, I
asking for
understand that.
reviews.
In your field, I completely understand that. What I'm curious about is you look at those 5-star reviews, what percent of those couples stayed together and what percentage ended up in divorce? I'm curious. Have you ever looked at that?
That's a great question. I know the majority of them stay together. I would say over 75%. But what's even more interesting
Yeah, yeah.
is some of them that got divorced
Uh-huh.
wrote reviews.
See, and that to me is from I would think that's even a greater measure of success, provided they weren't like bashing the X
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
review too. But if I mean,
No,
you know,
I basically, my take on, in these sessions is
yeah,
it's really simple. All you have to be able to do is look in the mirror and say, I did everything I
I
could. And
could.
if the
Yeah.
mirror says, yes, you have,
Mm,
you two will be fine.
absolutely. Yeah.
You're fine. So whether it works or not, as long as they can look in the mirror, they're good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Geez, I could talk to you for forever, John. All right. So before I get to my last two questions, I
Sure.
know that the audience has certainly captured the essence of John Weiman. And so, audience, in order to get to know John more or learn more about him and his practice, if you Google LifeBridge coaching, all three words, and John
3 words.
Wyman. Yeah, 3 words, life, bridge, coaching, John Wyman. You will find lifebridgecoaching.com, basically.
Yes,
One
exactly.
thing
Yeah.
you'll find. You'll also find him on LinkedIn and all that. On his website, you'll learn a lot about his practice, his life story. He does talk about the diagnosis of cirrhosis and that whole journey. He's definitely somebody you'll want to get to know, especially if you want to know somebody who's authentic. And John, in your practice, do you do marriage counseling remotely or is it only in person?
I actually do worldwide.
Worldwide. Okay, good to know, folks. Worldwide. All right. So, if you
I
have
did one of these
challenges,
in Australia.
yeah. Oh,
Couple
really?
years
Oh,
ago.
no kidding. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, so yeah. So reach out if you have questions about your marriage, or you just want to strengthen it or enhance the connection or whatever. I think actually one question I didn't ask you, which I was
Sure.
really thinking about, it is how in the U.S. there are 4 taboo topics that people say don't talk about, especially in business, and that's sex, money, religion, and politics. All right. So I'm wondering, I mean, I have a theory that those couples that have been together for a long time and it's a quote unquote happy marriage did discuss those 4 taboo topics early in the relationship to set and manage expectations so there were no surprises. Also wonder if there's a correlation between those couples who don't talk about those 4 things early on and end up getting divorced because there are a ton of freaking surprises during the marriage. Do you talk about that types
Well,
those 4 taboo
yes,
topics?
yes, absolutely. And I'll tell you that the data on this 67% of conflict is called perpetual conflict.
Okay.
And what that is the history of your position long before you two ever met. So
Mm,
naturally, you both think you're right.
right.
Whether it be, like if there's someone who's a saver, right?
Yeah.
Financially, someone to
Right.
savor and saying, hey, you know what? You live once. I'm going to spend. You're
Hmm.
crazy. You're boring. I'm going to spend. Well,
Yeah.
why I have it. I could die tomorrow.
Yep.
Well, in perpetual conflict, what I like to say is I don't like the word compromise. I
Mm,
like to say, what are you willing to bring to the table?
I love that.
Um, so if you're willing to, it's not compromise.
Yeah, I love that because compromise, somebody's losing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's more like a collaboration that you all have the same goal. Let's work together. I love that approach, John. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now another thing is, somebody told me a statistic that, and you think about the corporate world, and I know as men that it happened to me when I was going through my divorce. The divorce was final, and the 3 years of mediation, I changed as a person. I was not happy, and I lost focus in the workplace, and I ended up being fired 6 months after my divorce, which is costly to me, but also costly to the organization with what I was with, because now I'm going to hire somebody else and all that. I almost wonder, and it's kind of like what I want to get involved in too, is help like the middle managers at these corporations kind of navigate the corporate world, because I would think the companies lose a ton of money when one of their employees goes through some kind of marital discord or relationship issue. So I would think your service would
Uh,
be freaking awesome in
I'll shock you.
corporate. What's
I'll
that?
shock you because
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
recently started to do corporate
You
work. I
did.
do a 3 hour lecture
Ah.
on hour of what makes marriage work, hour of what breaks it, and an hour of questions. And
For the
I'm doing,
employees in a corporate location.
yes, through
Wow.
Zoom. 500 of them can sign
Good
on,
for
and
you.
yeah, it's here's the wake up call for companies.
Hmm.
Divorce costs companies over $150 billion.
Oh my gosh.
So if you, as a company, you know, do like I do these seminars at night,
Yeah.
um, and the employee can go home, have their wife, husband with them, and they can listen to it. And if we're saving a few, if they're taking the information, they may
Hmm.
take the information and use it from the seminar. They
Yeah.
may decide to book sessions.
Okay.
They may say, that was good. So it's the company. It's also good public relations for the companies because it's saying, hey, we care about you
Yeah.
at home as well as here, but it's also smart business.
I love this, John, because I said it just because I thought there'd be a need in that. The fact that there are companies out there that have not only entertained the possibility of doing it, are actually doing it, they're kind of walking the talk. And I'm hoping that these organizations share what they're doing with other organizations, so the word is spread, because this whole work-life balance people talk about, I think, is a bunch of bull. There's the human nature. You're going to take one thing from the other, and it's sometimes it's a good, because some people have strengths in one area and should use that same strength in both, the professional and personal. So yeah, there's a blurred line with this work-life balance, and that's
Here's a
okay.
wake up call for you. I had
Yeah.
a lawyer whose name was on the building.
Yeah.
Um, he was working so much, his wife literally bought a house and left him.
Oh geez.
He ended up in a psych hospital for 30 days, got discharged to me.
Oh wow.
And we were talking, and one day, and I was like, hey, how much did this cost you? And he said, oh my God, John, divorce in my among me and the partners cost us over $2 million in billings this year.
Oh my God.
So, and that's where I got the idea. I was like, hey, can I, you mind if I come in? And he said, oh
Mhm.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. So,
Yeah. There's definitely
um,
something there, John. So good for you. Good for you.
yeah,
All right. So before we wrap up, I've got two
sure,
final questions. All right.
yeah.
So you have the opportunity to sit down with young John Weiman, young 7 to 10-year-old John, and you want to give him advice about life. What are you going to tell him?
Wow, great question. It one probably the most important thing is to be have enough courage to be yourself.
Hmm.
I remember, for example, in sixth grade, my two best friends walked away from me. We walked to school together every day, and they
Yeah.
walked away from me and they said, we can't be friends with you anymore because we like girls and you're not cool enough to. and walked away. And my life kind of went shattered. And seventh grade, that was sixth grade, seventh grade, I began to drink.
Oh my God.
And I remember the first bonfire for the school football game.
Yeah.
I got drunk and I went to all these people to be accepted. And I wasn't me.
No.
And very honestly, not until Sherry have I been me.
Wow.
So I would tell that kid, you have to have the courage to be yourself. Some things we can change.
Yeah.
Some things we can't.
Got it. Yep.
And that has to be okay.
I love that. Wow. Awesome advice. All right. So we'll switch hats. Now you're sitting down with young John, the entrepreneur, young businessman. You want to give him advice about business. What are you going to tell him?
Find an area of need that the customer needs and build a model around it. For example, in my practice, people love it. I don't do the hour thing of, oh, Drew, you're saying something important right now. Really? I need your credit card. I charge per session.
Yeah.
And they can call me between sessions anytime they want.
I love that.
So in every area, in any type of people's company, I remember when I owned a marketing company, right? Well, one of the first things I did was we brought silk screening and embroidery in-house. Instead of depending on someone else to do it, we bought the materials of the company and we did it.
Oh, wow.
We hired employees to do it. So having that control, if you needed 100 t-shirts tomorrow, I made the decision whether that could be done. I didn't have to go make calls and everything. So you want to always, whatever business you're in, look for the areas of need.
Okay.
And attack it because it's there and the customers are screaming for it.
Absolutely. No, that's great advice. Absolutely. Most entrepreneurs do it backwards.
Yeah.
Boy, this was unbelievable. First of all, I want to thank Michael Overly for the introduction. I always like to thank the people who introduce good human beings to other human beings. So Mike's like a wonderful guy. John, thank you for coming into my life, man. I'm grateful. This happened for a reason, and this will just be another one of the times we talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you, John.
All right. All right, man.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.